And if you take a look at this position, it is absolutely miserable for black. G6, and black's position is just collapsing here. Okay, it is the 5th of January 2024, and a few days ago the FIDE World Blitz Chess Championship finished, and we have Magnus Carlsen as the new Blitz champion of the world. So today we're going to cover one of his games, one of his wins in the tournament against none other than Arjun Erigaisi, a very powerful grandmaster from India, one of the top contenders in the world. And there's a few key points just how Magnus Carlsen won the game. It wasn't too flashy, but there's some lessons. I want to go through them with you guys, so stick around. We'll have some fun in this video. So let's crack into it. Magnus started off with e4, started as a Sicilian, and then it transformed into a French King's Indian attack where white plays, usually goes e4, d5, and then d3 by white. It's one of those openings where you can kind of maneuver around quite easily as white and as black. The position closes up pretty quickly. So this is the first lesson. Both grandmasters are pretty good at chess and they understand the nuances of this position. This is most likely going to be a pretty closed, slow maneuvering game. And so Magnus plays this move a4, which is almost looks like an Alpha Zero computer move. Essentially what it does is it helps white gain some space on the queen side and prevents black from playing b5 and expanding on that side themselves. That's the key. That's one of the first key points, key lessons from this game. After a bit more maneuvering, the position closes up. Arjun gets that sort of sidelined knight on h7. And then Magnus just takes that g5 square away from black, full stop. So he can't put a pawn there, he can't put a knight or a bishop or anything there. And that's the beauty of playing a4 and h4 in these kind of closed and semi-closed positions, because you are gaining space in a pretty safe way. Your opponent can't really easily open up the center to launch a counterattack. And yeah, you just improve your position. So keep an eye out for those types of moves. The next stage of the game is a lot of maneuvering to the point where you get this weird backwards pawn on c2 for white, and Magnus even ends up with, after a few trades, with the rook on a2. And let's just go back a few moves to understand what happened there. What happened was Magnus realized that black's knight was in a powerful position and his bishop on d2 isn't doing much, so he traded it off. And then since white's pawns are on the light squares for the most part, Magnus gets rid of that light squared bishop. And if you think about what's left, black has a pretty bad bishop already, versus a knight that's going to jump onto that c4 square, which is a bit of an outpost, or even e4. So that was Magnus's plan: get rid of the light squared bishop, put his pawns on light squares, and lock Arjun's on dark squares. So again, the second lesson of this game is knights are pretty good, or you'd definitely prefer to have knights in a closed position, because bishops just by nature are pretty ineffective. So it's a pretty slow maneuvering game, but you can see that bishop on c5 by Arjun is just not really doing too much. And so even though it's a relatively balanced position, it's white who is the only one who can make progress. You can see Carlsen pushing with g4, still relatively balanced, but it's just that micro pressure that Carlsen seems to be an expert, the best in the world, at applying to his opponents. So he slowly starts gaining an advantage, and in this position Arjun is left with a bad bishop on c5 versus a knight on f3 that is going to start becoming a good piece for white. And after a few things happen, the position trades down to this endgame where white is a pawn up and black has this crappy pawn structure on the queen side. White wins a second pawn and starts advancing a little bit more. And we quickly get to the third lesson of this game. And that is, ready? Here Magnus sacrifices his rook to get rid of that queen. The third lesson of the game is rooks are really horrible at defending against multiple pass pawns. Rooks are really good at defending against one pass pawn, but if you have 2 or 3, it can get really tricky if you are the one defending. So in this case, the computer is on a different level and thinks this is a draw, but in practical terms, this is really, really, really hard to defend if you are black. And so Magnus, again, this is a blitz game, so things happen pretty quickly. Magnus pushes his pawns, forces Arjun to return the exchange, and Arjun resigns here because he knows that Magnus can win a king and pawn versus a king endgame. And so there you have it. A few lessons there from Magnus in a blitz game. Hope you guys took something out of it. Just a fun little video there. Catch you in the next one. See ya.